Good afternoon. Mr. Brennan.
Present.
Mr. Rickman.
Here.
Mr. McDowell.
Yes.
Mr. Duval.
Present.
Mr. Vine. Here. Mr. Davis.
Here.
Mayor Benjamin.
Here. Everyone please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. And it's great to see the Palmetto Blue flying with us today. Thank you, Madam City Manager. Red McDowell, would you mind giving us a word, please?
Let us bow our heads. Creator and merciful Father, for your goodness and mercy, for all that you've done for us, for the opportunity and the privilege of waking up this morning. And even though it's rainy and cloudy, we know that the sunshine of your grace shines upon us. Lord, we know that there are various issues and situations within this city, but we also are very aware that your love and your mercy covers each person within the confines of this city. Bless and keep us. We ask it in your name. Amen.
Amen. All right. Are there any amendments to the agenda, Madam Clerk, Madam City Manager? If none, we'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? We'll move to the previous question. Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. Brennan.
Yes.
Mr. Rickman.
Aye.
Mr. McDowell.
Yes.
Mr. Duval.
Aye.
Mr. Vine.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye.
Thank you.
City Manager.
Yes, sir. At this time, Mayor and Council, we ask that you approve the September 7th, 2021 City Council meeting minutes and the September 8th, 2021 emergency meeting minutes.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to the previous question. Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. Brennan.
Yes.
Mr. Rickman.
Aye.
Mr. McDowell.
Yes.
Mr. Duval.
Aye.
Mr. Vine.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye. Thank you.
Moving into a period of presentations, and these are always special to me, Mayor Benjamin and Council, when we are recognizing one of our longtime employees, Ms. Vicki Shockley, Human Resources Specialist. Upon her retirement, Ms. Pamela Benjamin, Chief of Staff, will come forward for the presentation.
So thank you are some of the most important words we can say. And so I want to thank the mayor, council, and Ms. Wilson, our city manager, for giving me the opportunity to say thank you to Vicki Shockley for over 30 years of service. Vicki was hired by Ron Cunningham. I don't know if anybody remembers that name, but he was our HR director back in 1989.